A deafening crack echoed through the sterile medical bay as Lieutenant Lucas Tremont slammed into the wall, his right leg twisting unnaturally beneath him. The mining operation on Kepler 22b had gone catastrophically wrong when the support beams collapsed, sending tons of equipment crashing down. Lucas had barely escaped with his life, but his leg hadn't been so fortunate. Human vital signs destabilizing. Emergency medical intervention required. The voice of Zix, the alien medical officer, was high-pitched with alarm as she scurried toward Lucas, her 4 nimble arms already reaching for diagnostic equipment. Lucas gritted his teeth against the searing pain. Through squinted eyes, he could see the grotesque angle of his tibia, the bone clearly broken and threatening to tear through his skin. Blood was already soaking through his jumpsuit. "Get the sedatives," Zix called to her assistant Meerok. "Human bone structure compromised. Probable compound fracture of the tibia. Possible fibular involvement." Lucas tried to sit up but collapsed back against the cold floor, his vision swimming. "How bad is it?" he managed to gasp. Zix's large, multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly in what Lucas had come to recognize as extreme distress. Her translucent skin had taken on a pale blue hue, the Keplerian equivalent of turning white with shock. "Do not move, Lieutenant Tremont. The bone is severely displaced. I must stabilize before Chai." But Lucas knew better. After 3 years on this mining colony, he had learned a thing or two about field medicine. The nearest human doctor was 16 days away by the fastest transport. If the bone stayed misaligned for too long, complications would multiply. "It needs to be reset now," he said through clenched teeth. Meerok returned with the medical kit, her smaller frame trembling visibly. "The bone stabilizer is malfunctioning. Engineering reports 2 hours for repairs." Zix's breathing tubes fluttered in panic. 2 hours is unacceptable. Human bone healing begins immediately. Improper alignment will require surgical intervention." Lucas could see the fear in both aliens' postures. The Keplerians were brilliant xenobiologists, but their own skeletal structure was cartilaginous and flexible. A broken human bone was as foreign to them as breathing water would be to Lucas. "Listen to me," Lucas said, struggling to keep his voice steady despite the waves of agony coursing through him. "I need you to hold my leg steady." Zix stared at him, her compound eyes reflecting the harsh medical bay lights. "What are you suggesting, Lieutenant?" "I'm going to set it myself." Zix's skin flushed deep indigo alarm, horror, and disbelief all at once. "That is medically inadvisable. Human pain thresholds." "Won't matter if gangrene sets in," Lucas interrupted. "Trust me on this one, Zix." The alien nurse hesitated, her 4 arms fidgeting with various medical instruments. "The procedure requires precise anatomical knowledge, and I was a combat medic before I became a mining engineer," Lucas explained, his breathing becoming more labored. "I've done this before, in the field, to myself." That wasn't entirely true. He'd assisted with emergency bone setting during his military service, but he'd never performed the procedure on himself. Still, he understood the basic principles, and right now, principles would have to be enough. Meerok's voice trembled. "The human knows their physiology better than we do, Senior Medical Officer." Zix's breathing tubes expanded fully, her species equivalent of a deep, calming breath. "Very well. What do you require from us?" Lucas nodded gratefully. "Meerok, get behind me. Support my shoulders. Zix, I need you to grasp my ankle and thigh firmly. When I say pull, you need to apply steady traction. Understood?" The aliens moved into position, though Lucas could feel their apprehension in their trembling limbs. "Wait," Zix said, frantically rummaging through the medical kit. She produced a small device and pressed it against Lucas's neck. "Local neural inhibitor. It will not block all pain, but it should prevent neural shock." Lucas felt a cool, spreading sensation down his right side. The pain diminished slightly from unbearable to merely excruciating. "Thank you," he said. "Now, on my count. 1, 2. Before reaching 3, Lucas grasped his lower leg with both hands and with a guttural roar that echoed through the medical bay, wrenched the bone back into alignment. The sound of the bone snapping back into place was almost as sickening as the initial break. Zix let out a high-pitched keening sound of distress as Lucas collapsed back against Meerok, consciousness flickering at the edges of his vision. "Bone realignment appears successful," Zix exclaimed, her medical scanner already hovering over the injury. "But the pain response, how are you conscious, Lieutenant?" Lucas couldn't answer. He lay gasping, sweat pouring down his face, the room spinning around him. He had known it would hurt, but theory and practice were very different beasts. "Administer full sedative protocol," he heard Zix order before darkness finally claimed him. Lucas awakened to the soft hum of medical equipment. His leg was encased in some sort of translucent cast that pulsed with a gentle blue light. Zix stood nearby, monitoring readouts on a holographic display. "How long was I out?" Lucas asked, his voice rough. Zix spun around, all 4 arms momentarily flailing in surprise. "Lieutenant, you are awake earlier than anticipated. Approximately 6 hours have elapsed since the incident." Lucas tried to sit up but found himself restrained by medical safety protocols. "How's the leg?" "The bone has been stabilized and initial healing has commenced," Zix reported, moving closer to his bedside. Her skin had returned to its normal lilac hue. "Your intervention was timely and effective, though extremely unorthodox by Keplerian medical standards." "Sorry if I scared you," Lucas said with a weak smile. Zix's breathing tubes fluttered in what Lucas had learned was embarrassment. "I must apologize for my inadequate response. Our medical training regarding human skeletal injuries is obviously insufficient." Lucas shook his head. "Don't apologize. Different species, different medical needs. I doubt I'd know what to do if your cartilage support structures failed." Zix adjusted the settings on Lucas's cast. "The medical director has been informed of the incident. She wishes to speak with you once you are fully recovered. I believe she intends to establish new training protocols." "Glad some good will come out of this," Lucas said, wincing as a twinge of pain shot through his leg. "I have a question, if permitted," Zix said, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Go ahead." "How did you overcome the pain? Our data suggests that such a procedure would cause incapacitating agony in most humans." Lucas considered the question. "Honestly, it did hurt. Probably the worst pain I've ever felt, but sometimes you just have to push through the pain to avoid something worse." Zix's eyes blinked in sequence, her species' version of contemplation. "Fascinating. We have much to learn about human resilience. Rest now, Lieutenant. The bone regenerator requires at least 12 more hours to complete primary fusion." As Zix moved away to attend to her duties, Lucas stared at the ceiling. 3 years on this alien world, and still the gaps in understanding between species remained vast. Today had been a lesson for both of them. The door to the medical bay slid open, and Colony Director Jarvik entered, his massive frame barely fitting through the standard doorway. The Arctovian administrator's rocky skin caught the light as he approached Lucas's bed. "Lieutenant Tremont," Jarvik rumbled, "reports of your unorthodox medical intervention have reached my office." Lucas attempted to sit straighter. "Sir, I made a judgment call. The bone needed to be set immediately." Jarvik raised a stony hand. "I am not here to reprimand you, Lieutenant. Quite the contrary. Your quick thinking prevented what could have been a serious medical complication." From the corner of his eye, Lucas saw Zix hovering nearby, pretending to review medical charts while clearly eavesdropping. "However," Jarvik continued, "this incident highlights a significant gap in our medical protocols. The mining operation on Kepler 22b employs 17 humans, yet our medical staff lacks fundamental training in human emergency care." "With respect, sir," Lucas said, The Keplerian medical team has always provided excellent care for the human contingent. For routine matters, yes, Jarvik conceded. But today's events demonstrate that emergency situations require specialized knowledge. The colony director turned to Zix. Senior medical officer approach. Zix scurried forward, her posture deferential. Yes, director? I am implementing an immediate update to medical training protocols. Lieutenant Tremont will assist in developing a comprehensive human emergency care program once he is recovered. Zix's skin flushed purple with excitement. That would be most beneficial, Director. The physiological differences between species present unique challenges that— Yes, Jarvik interrupted, clearly not interested in a technical discussion. Make the necessary arrangements. Lieutenant Tremont's mining duties will be temporarily reassigned to allow for this training initiative. Lucas nodded, though inwardly he groaned at the thought of being stuck teaching instead of returning to his regular work. I'll do whatever I can to help, sir. Excellent. Recover quickly, Lieutenant. Your expertise is valuable to this colony. With that, Jarvik turned and lumbered out of the medical bay. Once the director was gone, Zix approached Lucas's bedside again. This is a tremendous opportunity, Lieutenant. I have so many questions about human skeletal structure. For instance, how does your ossification process differ from Zix? Lucas interrupted gently. Maybe we could start with the basics first, like how to set a broken bone without having the human patient do it themselves. Zix's breathing tubes fluttered in embarrassment again. Yes, of course. Practical applications first, theory later. Lucas smiled and settled back against the medical bed. His leg throbbed dully beneath the regenerative cast. It was going to be a long recovery. 2 days later, Lucas was finally permitted to leave the medical bay, albeit with strict instructions to use the hovering mobility aid Zix had configured for him. The regenerative cast had done its work efficiently, but human bone healing still required time. As he made his way slowly through the colony corridors, Lucas was surprised by how many aliens stopped to speak with him. Word of his self-administered emergency treatment had spread quickly throughout the mining colony. "Lieutenant Tremont!" called Grell, one of the Vesperian engineers. His insectoid features clicked with excitement as he approached. "Is it true you manually realigned your own structural support system?" Lucas suppressed a sigh. "If you mean I set my own broken leg, then yes." "Remarkable!" Grell's antennae quivered. "In Vesperian medicine, we would never consider allowing a patient to perform such a procedure. The psychological trauma alone would be considered too severe." "Sometimes necessity overrides medical best practices," Lucas replied diplomatically. Before Grell could ask more questions, Lucas spotted Meerok hurrying toward him, her medical kit clutched in 2 of her 4 arms. "Lieutenant, you should not be ambulating without supervision," Meerok scolded, quickly scanning his vital signs with a handheld device. "Senior Medical Officer Zix was most explicit about your movement restrictions." "I'm just heading to my quarters, Meerok," Lucas assured her. "The mobility aid is working perfectly." Meerok's eyes narrowed skeptically. "Your bone density readings indicate healing is proceeding at an acceptable rate, but premature stress could compromise structural integrity." Lucas couldn't help but smile at her concern. "I promise I'm being careful, and I'm following all of Zix's instructions for the bone stimulator treatments." Meerok seemed somewhat appeased. "Very well, but you are expected in Medical Bay 3 tomorrow at 0800 hours to begin the training program Director Jarvik has authorized. Senior Medical Officer Zix has assembled a complete xenomedicine team to learn from your expertise." "I'll be there," Lucas promised, already wondering what he'd gotten himself into. As Meerok departed, Lucas continued his slow journey through the colony. The mining operation on Kepler 22b was one of the most diverse in the sector, with species from across the Orion Arm working together to extract the valuable quantum crystals that powered interstellar communications. Humans made up only a small percentage of the workforce, primarily serving as structural engineers and security specialists. When Lucas finally reached his quarters, he eased himself onto his bunk with a groan. The pain medication was wearing off, and his leg was throbbing insistently. He activated the bone stimulator as instructed and tried to relax. His comm unit chimed, and Lucas reluctantly answered. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the concerned face of Dr. Elena Voss, the human medical liaison stationed on the supply station in orbit. "Lucas, I just received the report about your injury," she said without preamble. "Are you insane? You reset your own tibia?" Lucas winced, both from the pain in his leg and her tone. "Hello to you too, Elena. And yes, it seemed like the best option at the time. The report says it was a clean break, but still. You could have caused nerve damage, vascular compromise, not to mention the risk of shock." Her professional concern was evident, but Lucas detected something else in her voice, grudging admiration, perhaps. The Keplerian medical staff weren't familiar enough with human skeletal injuries to act quickly, Lucas explained. "And you know as well as I do that delays in treating displaced fractures can lead to complications." Elena sighed, running a hand through her short hair. "I do know that, which is the only reason I'm not formally reprimanding you. But this highlights exactly what I've been telling Central Command for months. We need better cross-species medical training." "Well, Director Jarvik agrees with you. I've been tasked with creating a training program for the medical staff here." Elena's eyebrows shot up. "You? No offense, Lucas, but field medic training from 8 years ago hardly qualifies you as an instructor." "None taken," Lucas said with a wry smile. "But I'm all they've got until the next supply ship arrives with proper training materials. Besides, I think after my dramatic demonstration, they're more inclined to listen to me." Elena's expression softened slightly. "Just don't overdo it, and stick to the basics: emergency stabilization, pain management, and when to call for evac to orbital medical. Promise me you won't try to teach them surgical procedures?" "Promise," Lucas agreed. "Basic human first aid only." "Good. I'm sending you some updated protocols. Review them before you start training anyone." Elena paused. "And Lucas, take care of yourself. That leg needs proper time to heal." After the call ended, Lucas lay back on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be challenging, but if his experience could help prevent another alien medical officer from panicking when faced with a human injury, it would be worth it. The next morning, Lucas arrived at Medical Bay 3 to find it transformed into an impromptu classroom. 8 alien medical personnel from various species were already assembled, with Zix standing at the front, organizing holographic anatomical displays. "Lieutenant Tremont," Zix exclaimed when she noticed him, "we were just preparing for your instruction. Please take the primary position." Lucas maneuvered himself to the front of the room, still using the hovering mobility aid. He surveyed his audience: 4 Keplerians, including Zix and Meerok, 2 Vesperians, 1 Arctovian, and a Solarian whose luminous body pulsed with anticipation. "Good morning," Lucas began, feeling decidedly out of his element. "I'm not a doctor or a professional medical instructor, but I'm here to help you understand the basics of human emergency care, particularly as it relates to skeletal injuries." "Before we begin," interrupted the Solarian, whose name tag identified him as Dr. Lumen, "I must inquire about your pain tolerance. Is it typical for humans to perform self-surgery without adequate anesthesia?" Lucas suppressed a sigh. This was going to be a long day. "No, Dr. Lumen. What I did would not be considered standard procedure. Humans have varying pain tolerances, but none of us enjoy pain. What I did was an emergency measure because the circumstances required immediate action." "Fascinating," murmured one of the Vesperians. "Our species would enter shock stasis if subjected to similar trauma." "Let's focus on the practical aspects," Lucas suggested, gesturing to the holographic human skeleton Zix had prepared. The human skeletal system consists of 206 bones, each with specific functions and vulnerabilities. Today, we'll concentrate on identifying common fractures and appropriate emergency responses. For the next 2 hours, Lucas walked the alien medical team through the basics of human bone structure, common injury patterns, and emergency stabilization techniques. He was surprised by how quickly they absorbed the information, asking insightful questions that occasionally stretched the limits of his knowledge. In the case of my injury, Lucas explained, pointing to the holographic tibia, the bone was displaced laterally. Immediate realignment was critical to prevent damage to surrounding tissues and blood vessels. But the pain response, Meerok interjected. How did you manage it? Lucas considered his response carefully. Pain is a complex phenomenon for humans. In emergency situations, we can sometimes push through it using a combination of focus, adrenaline, and necessity. However, proper pain management should always be a priority in medical care. Zix stepped forward. I have prepared a demonstration of proper bone-setting techniques based on human medical databases and Lieutenant Tremont's experience. With his permission? Lucas nodded, and Zix activated a new hologram showing a step-by-step procedure for setting a broken tibia. The aliens watched with rapt attention. Note the application of traction before manipulation, Zix explained, and the importance of proper anatomical alignment. The human nervous system and vascular structures must be protected throughout the procedure. As the training session continued, Lucas found himself impressed by Zix's thoroughness. She'd clearly spent the last 2 days intensively studying human orthopedic medicine. Her dedication to improving her skills was admirable. By midday, exhaustion was setting in, and Lucas's leg was throbbing despite the medication. Zix noticed his discomfort immediately. We will conclude for today, she announced to the group. Review the materials provided, and we will reconvene tomorrow for practical exercises using the simulation models. As the other medical personnel filed out, Zix approached Lucas. Your discomfort levels are elevated. The bone stimulator requires adjustment. I'm fine, Lucas started to say, but Zix was already scanning his leg. Humans consistently underreport pain, she said, not looking up from her scanner. A curious trait that complicates medical assessment. Please remain still. Lucas complied as Zix made adjustments to his regenerative cast. You've really thrown yourself into this human medicine research, haven't you? Zix's skin flushed slightly purple. Your injury revealed significant gaps in my knowledge. This is unacceptable for a senior medical officer responsible for all species in the colony. Well, I'm impressed by how quickly you're learning. It is my duty, Zix replied simply, but Lucas could tell she was pleased by the compliment. The bone is healing well, but you must rest for the remainder of the day. Tomorrow's session will focus on emergency splinting techniques for various fracture types. As Lucas made his way back to his quarters, he reflected on the strange turn of events. What had started as a mining accident had somehow transformed into an interspecies medical education program. And despite the pain and inconvenience, he couldn't help but feel it was important work. The next human to break a bone on Kepler 22b would hopefully receive more confident care. Over the next week, Lucas continued the training sessions with the alien medical team. Each day brought new challenges and questions as the different species grappled with the peculiarities of human physiology. The Vesperians struggled with the concept of rigid bones, while the Solarian found human pain responses particularly difficult to comprehend. Zix, however, proved to be an excellent co-instructor, often anticipating questions and providing detailed explanations where Lucas's knowledge fell short. On the 5th day, Zix announced it was time for practical training. Today, we will practice emergency bone setting using simulation models, she explained, gesturing to several human-shaped forms laid out on medical beds. These models have been programmed with accurate tissue resistance and pain response indicators. Lucas watched as the alien medical team divided into pairs and began working with the simulations. Meerok and another Keplerian named Trill were the first to attempt setting a simulated broken arm. "Apply traction gently," Lucas instructed, hovering near them. "Remember, human bones are strong but brittle compared to Keplerian support structures." Meerok nodded, her 4 arms working in coordinated precision as she stabilized the simulated limb. Traction applied, preparing to realign displaced segments. With surprising deftness, Meerok guided the broken ends of the simulated bone back into alignment. The model's pain indicators flashed, but the procedure was completed smoothly and efficiently. "Excellent work," Lucas praised. "That was textbook perfect." Meerok's skin flushed with pride. "I have studied the human anatomical references extensively. The structural logic of your skeletal system is fascinating, if alarmingly rigid." Lucas moved on to observe the other teams, offering guidance and encouragement. The Arctovian medic, whose rocky hands seemed too large for delicate work, displayed surprising gentleness in manipulating the simulated bones. By the end of the session, all the alien medical personnel had successfully completed at least one simulated bone-setting procedure. Lucas couldn't help feeling a sense of accomplishment as he watched them work with increasing confidence. "Your instruction has been invaluable, Lieutenant," Zix said as they concluded the day's training. "The medical team's competence with human skeletal injuries has improved by approximately 78% according to simulation metrics." "You've all been quick learners," Lucas replied honestly. "I think any human unfortunate enough to break a bone here in the future will be in good hands, or appendages, as the case may be." Zix's breathing tubes fluttered with amusement. "Indeed. Tomorrow we will proceed to more complex fractures and multiple injury scenarios." As Lucas prepared to leave, Director Jarvik entered the medical bay, his massive form commanding immediate attention. "Lieutenant Tremont," the Arctovian rumbled, "I have been monitoring the progress of this training initiative. The results are most satisfactory." "Thank you, sir," Lucas replied, straightening as much as his healing leg would allow. "The medical team has been exceptionally dedicated." "Yes," Jarvik agreed, his rocky features shifting into what Lucas had learned was an expression of approval. "So dedicated that news of this program has reached Central Command. They are considering implementing similar cross-species medical training at all mixed-species outposts." Lucas blinked in surprise. "That's unexpected, sir." "But logical," Jarvik countered. "The efficiency of multi-species operations depends on proper medical support for all personnel. Your injury, while unfortunate, has highlighted an important area for improvement." The director turned to Zix. "Senior Medical Officer, you will prepare a complete report on this training program, including methodologies and outcomes to be transmitted to Central Command." Zix's posture straightened with pride. "It will be done, Director." After Jarvik departed, Zix turned to Lucas, her compound eyes gleaming with excitement. "This is an unprecedented opportunity, Lieutenant. Our training program could become the standard for human emergency care throughout the sector." Lucas smiled, feeling a surprising sense of satisfaction. "Not bad for an impromptu lesson that started with me snapping my own bone back into place, huh?" Zix's skin flushed deep purple. "That moment will remain permanently etched in my memory. The sound alone was most distressing." "Trust me," Lucas said with a wry smile. "It wasn't exactly pleasant from my end either." 2 more weeks passed, and Lucas's leg healed steadily under the combined effects of the regenerative cast and bone stimulator. The training program continued to expand, now including medical personnel from other sections of the mining colony who were eager to learn about human emergency care. On the day the regenerative cast was finally removed, Lucas sat on the examination table as Zix carefully cut through the hardened material. The medical bay was quiet, most of the staff attending to routine duties elsewhere in the colony. "The bone density readings are excellent," Zix reported, studying her scanner. "Full healing has been achieved, though I recommend continued caution for approximately 1 Earth week." Lucas flexed his newly freed leg cautiously, feeling only a slight twinge. "Feels good to have it out of that cast. Thanks for all your care, Zix." "I was merely performing my duties," Zix replied, though her skin coloration suggested she was pleased by the acknowledgement. "Still, I appreciate it, and I've learned a lot these past weeks too. About Keplerian medicine, about the other species here. It's been educational." Zix set aside her medical instruments and regarded Lucas with her multifaceted eyes. "I have been meaning to ask you something, Lieutenant." "Go ahead. When you reset your bone that day, were you afraid?" Lucas was surprised by the question. He considered it carefully before responding. "Yes, I was afraid. Afraid of the pain. Afraid I might make things worse instead of better. But sometimes you have to act despite the fear." Zix's breathing tubes expanded thoughtfully. "In Keplerian culture, fear is considered a warning to be heeded, not overcome. Your human approach is difficult for us to comprehend." "It's not about ignoring fear," Lucas explained. "It's about weighing risks and making the best decision you can with the information available. Sometimes that means doing something scary because the alternative is worse." "A practical philosophy," Zix acknowledged. "I believe I understand better now why you acted as you did." She paused, her skin shifting to a deeper purple. "I must confess that your action has changed my perception of human resilience. It was impressive," Lucas smiled. "High praise coming from you, Senior Medical Officer." "Does this mean you'll let me return to active duty?" "Limited duty only," Zix cautioned, her professional demeanor returning. "No heavy lifting or extended periods standing for 7 Earth days, and you will report for follow-up scans every 48 hours. "Yes, madam," Lucas replied with a mock salute. As he prepared to leave the medical bay, Lucas reflected on the strange journey of the past few weeks. A broken bone, a moment of sheer agony and desperate action, had somehow led to improved interspecies understanding and potentially sector-wide changes in medical protocols. "Lieutenant?" Zix called as he reached the door. When he turned back, she seemed uncharacteristically hesitant. "I've been authorized to inform you that your actions have been noted in the official colony record. Director Jarvik has recommended you for a commendation." Lucas was taken aback. "For breaking my leg?" "For your educational contribution and for demonstrating exceptional adaptability in a crisis situation," Zix clarified. "Both qualities are highly valued in multi-species operations." "I'm honored," Lucas said sincerely, "but I couldn't have done it without your willingness to learn and adapt as well. This was a team effort." Zix's breathing tubes fluttered in what Lucas now recognized as her species' equivalent of a smile. Indeed. Perhaps that is the most valuable lesson of all, that different species, with different physiologies and perspectives, can work together to overcome challenges. Lucas nodded in agreement. "I'll see you for that follow-up scan in 48 hours. And Zix? Let's hope the next time we collaborate, it doesn't involve any broken bones." "That would be preferable," Zix agreed solemnly, though her coloration betrayed her amusement. As Lucas left the medical bay and walked through the colony corridors, he moved carefully, but without the hovering mobility aid. Colony personnel of various species nodded to him in greeting, some with a new respect in their eyes. The story of the human who reset his own broken bone had become something of a legend in the small community. Lucas knew his leg would likely ache in cold weather for years to come, a common aftermath of such injuries. but he couldn't bring himself to regret the experience. In the vast expanse of space, understanding between different forms of life was perhaps the most valuable resource of all. If a broken bone in a moment of shared panic could contribute to that understanding, then perhaps it had been worth the pain after all. That evening, as Lucas sat in the colony's common area, he was approached by a young human engineer named Ryan, who had arrived on the most recent supply ship. "Lieutenant Tremont," Ryan asked hesitantly, "I've heard about what happened with your leg, about how you taught the alien medical staff about human injuries." Lucas gestured to the empty seat beside him. "Word travels fast around here." Ryan sat down, looking both impressed and slightly concerned. "I've never been off Earth before. This is my first deep space assignment. I guess I'm a little nervous about the medical situation here if something happens." "You're in good hands," Lucas assured him. "The medical team here is extremely competent, and now they're better prepared for human-specific emergencies." "So if I break a bone, I won't have to set it myself?" Ryan asked with a nervous laugh. Lucas smiled. "No, you definitely won't. In fact, Senior Medical Officer Zix could probably teach a few things to human doctors now. She's become quite the expert on human orthopedics." As if summoned by her name, Zix entered the common area, accompanied by Meerok and 2 Vesperian medical officers. They spotted Lucas and approached his table. "Lieutenant Tremont," Zix greeted him, "we are pleased to see you ambulating successfully. Are you experiencing any discomfort?" "Just a little stiffness," Lucas replied honestly. "Nothing concerning." He gestured to Ryan. "This is Ryan Chen, one of our new engineers. He was just asking about the medical facilities here." Zix turned her compound eyes toward Ryan, who looked slightly intimidated by the alien's intense gaze. "Welcome to Kepler 22b Mining Colony, Engineer Chen. Rest assured that our medical team is fully prepared to address any human medical emergencies that may arise during your assignment." Ryan nodded, seeming somewhat reassured. "Thank you. I've heard a lot about the training program you've been running with Lieutenant Tremont." "Indeed," Zix replied. "It has been most instructive. We have developed comprehensive protocols for human emergency care that exceed standard outpost requirements." "She's being modest," Lucas interjected with a smile. "Zix has probably become one of the leading experts on human orthopedic emergency care in the sector." Zix's skin flushed purple at the compliment. "Lieutenant Tremont exaggerates. However, we have made significant progress in understanding human physiological responses to trauma." As the conversation continued, Lucas observed the easy interaction between the human engineer and the alien medical team. The tension and fear that had characterized his own emergency treatment just weeks ago seemed distant now, replaced by professional confidence and mutual respect. Later that night, as Lucas prepared for sleep, his comm unit chimed with an incoming message from Earth. It was from his brother, responding to the news of his injury that Lucas had sent a week earlier. "Got your message about the broken leg," his brother's recorded voice said. "Only you would manage to break a bone on an alien world and end up teaching aliens about human medicine. Mom's worried, of course, but I told her you're too stubborn to let a little thing like a snapped tibia slow you down. Take care of yourself out there, Lucas, and maybe try not to break any more bones, okay? Love you, bro." Lucas smiled as the message ended. His brother wasn't wrong. The experience had been uniquely challenging and rewarding in ways he never could have anticipated. The broken bone that had caused an alien nurse to panic had led to improvements that would benefit humans and aliens alike for years to come. As he drifted toward sleep, Lucas thought about the training sessions scheduled for the next day. Zix had arranged for a visiting human doctor from the orbital station to evaluate their progress and provide additional insights. The program they had started together was growing beyond anything he had imagined. Sometimes, Lucas reflected, the most meaningful connections formed in the most unexpected ways, even through broken bones and moments of crisis. In the vast diversity of the universe, understanding often began with acknowledging differences and finding common ground. And if that common ground happened to be a human's surprising ability to reset their own broken bone, well, that was just one more strange chapter in humanity's ongoing adventure among the stars.